There we go. Hello, everybody. Hello, Penny.
Chris, how are you?
Very
This
well.
is
Very well.
strange with no one on the screen, isn't it?
Oh, apparently there's a cast of thousands that we've got here today.
We need
We'll
we
just
need a pretend audience in front of us.
we do. I'm in Sydney today. I'm level 33 at our beautiful office in North Sydney, and so I'm everybody. I'm pretending that you are Sydney. You know, scooting around in boats and being busy little bees and whatnot. So yeah,
Oh,
that's.
Margie's on. Hello.
Hmm. Hello, Margie. So we'll just wait a minute or so and then we'll kick off. I may as well, we'll just do a bit of an introduction for those who don't know myself and Penny. Penny is the lovely manager of Chew Consult, and I'm Chris Fraser, General Manager of Chew Services, or CHU Services, and we'll be taking you through a bit of a look at condition reporting and claims prevention. Good morning, Sharina. So I'll just wait another 30 seconds and then we'll kick off. You probably noticed since the last one we did of these that my beard has grown somewhat. So any comments that you'd like to make about that are welcome.
Was that specially for the webinar, Chris?
Yes, everything is building up. I've been a nervous Nelly.
I wondered what it was in aid of.
Yeah, no, I've been specifically neglecting myself for the last month, awaiting it.
It's
All
always
right,
healthy.
thank you. So yes, if anybody out there who'd like to neglect themselves, this is what happens.
Morning, Perth.
Morning, morning, morning. Okay, I think we'll kick off. We've got a fair bit to talk through. Hopefully you'll find it insightful,
Adelaide.
entertaining, and hopefully if you've got any questions, we'll do our best. There's many people in the chat, so we won't be able to respond to absolutely everything, but we do have some people in the background, Daniel Hunt and Megan Smith in the background assisting to look through and answer questions that we can get to. But we will capture those, and what we can't grab, we will come back to you, as that's our style. Okay, so let's kick off. So yeah, welcome to Condition Reporting and Proactive Claims Prevention, hosted by Penny Allenson, Manager of Chew Consult, and Christopher Fraser, General Manager of CHU Services. We will kick off with acknowledgement of country in the spirit of reconciliation. CHU acknowledges the traditional custodians of the land on which we live and work throughout Australia and their continuing connection to land, sea and community. We pay our respects to the elders past, present and emerging, and extend that respect to all Aboriginal and Torres Strait Islander peoples. And I must say, sitting here in North Sydney, I am ultra respectful. What a beautiful land we live in. I don't know if anyone in today's session might have come across CHU before. We're just a very small company, quite conservative, tiny. Obviously, many products, particularly in the strata space. You can see them all on the screen there. Also got what I refer to as a sister brand in Flex Insurance that provides the residential strata, and CHU is growing in many ways, looking to respond to many needs in the strata sector. Hence why Chew Services was born, in which many of you will come across CHU Assess, Consult, and some of you would have seen the fruits of Inspect, our tools, which I'll touch on a little bit of each. But particularly today, we're living in the consult world, and Penny's tech eyes in this space to aid us to respond to the maintenance needs of strata. At CHU, we've won many awards. 3 years running, Underwriting Agency of the Year, most recently for the Insurance Business Awards Claims Team of the Year 2023. So I'm very, very proud of that. Almost 1 million properties protected, 24/7 claims process, and over 45 years now in the game. It's only slightly younger than me and my beard. So yeah. Now, the agenda, like why a strata should be active in claims prevention, what delay to maintain correct defects ends up costing, and how a strata policy responds to defects and maintenance, insight into condition reporting, as Penny and team are active in that space and can talk directly to it,
Yep.
as well as touching on the diagnostic tools that we're using in the inspect space. So I just, as I was driving down the freeway this morning, I had this picture in my head of this happy beehive, because it's what we want in the strata world. Like, we've got buildings and they're in various states. Some of them are beautiful and happy people, and some of them not. And so I just had this vision, and I wanted to put it on the screen. But in doing so, I also expect, as I explained to Penny, in a convoluted way, that I might get emails from the Hornets Society as some kind of racist slur against hornets. But please don't take offence. But I will.
You had to elaborate on that explanation, because I didn't understand the first time.
Margie gets me. Thank you.
Yeah.
You see me and see you too. Thank you very much.
I'm not that creative. That's why, Chris.
That's all right. But ultimately, what we're doing is the notion of what money do I want to spend on my building? And obviously, the answer can't be none. But the timing of when we spend money on a building can save us an immense amount of money. And so why should we do this and be active and spend money on our preventative maintenance? Obviously, we don't want our buildings to turn into being like this, but often in our space, and with Penny, we'll talk to condition reporting, the buildings don't look like this. Some of them look very pretty, but the question is, are they functional? And is there is there activities that we can spend now that can prevent money quadrupling in time in the many different ways that they can, and the ticking time bomb basically that comes through when a building and its risk become almost untenable for insurance in the insurance space. We want the strata community to be happy and healthy, and to be for the insurers to be competitively wanting that risk. And to do that, we've got to have healthy buildings. What we are, when we are spending money on maintenance, we're preventing an inflated defect cost. And I say that as in today's cost will always be subject to inflation. And I'll show you on a further slide in a moment.
We've seen massively, recently.
Particularly of late.
Yeah.
And so also that those defects, the maintenance and cost and the consequence of not doing it snowballs.
Extend the scope. Yeah.
Right. There's secondary damages that come through that will either have claims that will or won't be responded to. And so that that claim prevented right now, you're always going to have to spend that money in the future in relation to that maintenance. And so it's going to be more in the future. And also the claims prevented, and then the increased premiums that will flow from those claims if they're not prevented, ballooning levies to respond to the policy, and other increased maintenance costs. And also that we know that, and that's just kind of maybe the slide about the angry hornet's nest, is that when there's disputes and an unhappy strata, when people are arguing about what should and shouldn't be done, that prevents or delays the preventative actions that then potentially turn into lawyers' costs. Like these are costs that we can absolutely prevent in defining what is needed to
The
make
money's better spent elsewhere, Chris.
absolutely.
So, and stop the degradation.
That's right. Like we know in Australia that like I don't think many people would be arguing that the frequency of catastrophic events are increasing. Like is actual data that talks to both the frequency and cost of these events normalized, as in so that money spent back in 1982 is normalized, like factored up basically to make it even Stevens in relation to dollar for dollar, and so that we can see a correlation between the climate index of average heat or climate indicators directly corresponding with the frequency of these events. These events, although obviously we hope that we can prevent them from occurring and that trend correct, but how do we respond to them now? It's by having a functioning building that's free from defects and is fit for purpose in all its design. And so all these factors basically are built into the costing of insurance, and the healthier a building is from a risk perspective, the more competitive then the market of insurance will be. These are also like when we talk about money spent on labour and materials to do these maintenance works. We're in an inflation world at the moment. The cost of CPI increasing, construction costs are increasing, and it actually looked like it was kind of stable there for a while. Kicked up during COVID, but I don't think anyone's going to ultimately disagree that in order to, I mean, if we're talking about investment, it's like if you wanted to win big, basically on investing your money, say in Apple or Microsoft or Netflix or something like that, when should have you invested? Probably 20 years ago. And so it's the money that you spend basically in the now that is the answer as to how much money you have in your pocket in the future. And I'm sure that everyone would prefer to spend good money now on maintenance than money that they have to spend unenjoyably on responding to these very preventable things in the future. Very quickly, I know that we've got many brokers in our audience and strata managers. Also talk to, as I forgot to add this, thank you for everybody's attendance, and you are rewarded with CPD points. Our brokers from ANZIF and from the SCA for our strata managers, those CPD points will flow through probably in the next week or so. And so there is a reward for this dump of knowledge that hopefully you're not just all focusing on how lovely Penny looks and how beautiful my moustache is.
You've got a very exciting slide up for this one too, Chris. You've decided to talk policy.
I do. So we'll just flick through. I think most people in this space will know how policy works. This is the CHU policy. It's a broad form accidental loss or damage policy that talks to the word damage and uses the words such as insured property. And anything that's with a capital in our policy has a definition. And so insured property means building or buildings as defined by the strata legislation applying where your building is situated, such as the New South Wales Strata Schemes Management Act, which is not a direct reflection on what is common property. Insured property doesn't equal common property. Insured property includes owners' improvements and owners' fixtures forming part of the building. There's some nuance between the different states around this. Like I know that air conditioners servicing a single lot in Queensland basically falls out. In New South Wales, it talks about like wallpaper and wall, floor and ceiling coverings being out, but the different insurers may endorse those in. And so the brief message is common property doesn't equal, or is not the same definition as insured property. Damage means any partial or total accidental physical loss of or destruction of property from any sudden and accidental cause, not otherwise excluded by this policy. And so like those terms are fairly short, but kind of broad in their nature. And so when we look at these kind of policies, we look at, is it insured property that is damaged during the course of that policy? And then is there an exclusion that applies? Probably the most common exclusions that apply that are really the subject of this condition reporting subject are things of a nature which is gradual, slow coming train kind of things, pre-existing issues in the building. And so exclusion 1B, this lack of maintenance, rust, oxidization, corrosion, mold, wear and tear, etc., etc., etc. And also this inherent defects or latent defects that you were aware of or reasonable person in the circumstances would have been aware of. So these are items that are not sudden, that they are a pre-existing or a slow coming train kind of thing. There's also further wording in here about that we don't respond to repair the defects, as in will not pay for damage caused by non-rectification of an insured property defect, error, or omission that you were aware of or should have reasonably been aware of, or the cost of rectifying that faulty or defective material or faulty or defective workmanship, design or specification. This is the CHU policy. I can't talk to all, but I do know that it is a similar vein. But please speak to your broker if you seek further advice. What does delay to maintain cost strata? So inflated repair costs, resultant claims of both damage and consequential loss. Consequential loss is talking about alternate accommodation. Very, very costly. If we can get alternate accommodation in Sydney for less than $200 a night, and that's a great outcome in many cases, and sometimes north of $350 a night. It's very difficult. It's a booming Airbnb world out there, I must say. And also these are the consequential loss by nature is it's not a repair cost. It's not the response to make safe or repair the insured property. It's a consequence, as in further money that is expended or incurred as a result of the event. Potential excluded claims, potential liable matters for uninsured loss triggered by failure or a breach of the strata legislation requiring maintenance, premium loading to account for increased claims, cost and loss ratio. There is, I've actually put in here, to be continued in the next webinar. That's me forgetting that this is a slide from last year's webinar. And so whether it's the next one or one that's coming up in the near future,
we've looked at this many times, Chris, and neither of us picked up. That's crazy.
Well, to slap myself.
I'm going to blame you. You kept jumping past this slide.
Right. I have flaws, people.
Questions coming through. There's so many good questions.
But there is further webinars coming of that nature, and it's thrilling, a thrilling journey, not hosted by myself. Claims prevention, quick wins. The bane of our existence, the flexi pipe.
Flexios.
Everybody check your flexi pipes. I know you might have got a really good one recently.
Every 5 years.
Every 5 years. Well, look at them. You can see here the way that these are constructed. They've got like a flexible rubber inner, and the way that they're held together is the stainless steel braiding around them. And so they don't actually, often don't fail from the inside. They fail from calcium or water basically dripping down the outside from unsealed tap surrounds and others, like dripping down, calcifying basically and causing corrosion of the outside. When that happens, they give way, allowing that rubber to expand under pressure and go. And we know that these, like when you've got a normal, like a copper pipe, when they go, it's a trickle, like they're pinpoint, like yes, and they slowly cause damage. When these go, it is
devastating.
Yeah, it's just
especially if you're not home or on holidays.
Oh, absolutely. These things, I swear, they're built with a microchip inside them that knows when people are on holiday.
I had a friend just recently, Chris, that they were away and the flexi hose went. They came home to absolute disaster. So
trauma, very traumatic.
Yeah.
Gutters and valleys and basically hydrology, making sure that it is doing what it is designed to do, free from build-up, able to flow. Very common things that I know many have frequent plans, but check them after big storms. If you've got trees around, don't necessarily wait for the next scheduled maintenance. Step it up, prevent that next claim. Tree roots. We love trees. Trees are beautiful. Tree roots in particularly sewer pipes are not nice.
Oh, beautiful.
They're not nice. They're a frequent thing that my loss adjusting team and our building consultancy team go to. And despite what anyone says, having sewer flowing through your house it's quite disgusting. I know that that's probably controversial for some, but yeah.
I never enjoy it.
No, we don't. Also, manage like balconies. Oh, if anyone's discovered someone who builds a balcony that doesn't leak, either from design or waterproofing, etc., or just in consideration of that they need to drain. And so the more clutter that is on them, like from leaf debris, particularly in a large storm event, I've been to many of my loss adjusting shoes. When you consider a tall building or just a building, when you've got driving sideways rain, in essence, that facade becomes the roof. In essence, it's catching all that water. And so the step up between your balcony area to the inside, in essence, plays into how well your drainage will be. And then if you
lack thereof, there's not always a step up, Chris. So
you've got a choke point, basically, of a drainage point, which is small or infrequent, that can get blocked and minimize the availability of it draining, then that's an invited claim.
The biggest thing we see is pot plants and people putting pot plants over drains. You'd think it'd be a simple thing as far as I won't pop that there, but it's often the cause, just simply someone liking the place for the plant and popping it there and turning their decks into a swimming pool.
We love plants. Absolutely love plants.
In the right environment.
That's right, but you've got to maintain it. You've got to know that these things can turn into, I mean, like, okay, the policy is there to respond in a storm situation, but do you want that? like, do you want a claim? I mean, yes, you want the policy to be there, but
much easier if there's not a claim.
A claim basically is the starting of preventing that snowball effect of dollars. I will pass to Penny, as this is her technical expertise, talking from risk reporting from our underwriting space and into condition reporting in the strata space. Penny is highly qualified as a builder, and as is all her team. And so I will stroke my beard a lot and look pretty.
You can nod at me, Chris, and agree. Hello all, how are you? So yeah, I am a big building nerd. It is very sad. And I have a team of, I'm going to call them all building nerds. So we all love what we do. We all love buildings. And we're all about actually, you know, looking after buildings, helping people in that space. Doesn't always seem like it because we can be the bad guys in a lot of instances, but yeah, we all do have a love of buildings. So we have developed condition reporting in our space. It has been a long time piece that we've been working on, and we're continually refining these things. But basically what the risk or condition reporting does is it's an identification report. It's identifies issues and provides a recommendation for specialist reporting. So it's basically that first report that you need in knowing what you want to do with your building. We keep it really simple in the way we look at buildings because we are all from the building space. Risk matrix is a really simple way for us to look at a building and score a building. Makes a lot of sense. We talk risk a lot in the building space. So that's how we've, you know, built this report around a matrix. And then we have 5 critical points that we look at with buildings. The first is water. We all know that water is the biggest cause of most issues with buildings. I talk all the time, FP 1.4, your building's to be watertight. You know, that is the first thing we talk about when we come to a building, is that facade being watertight. We look at natural. So I'll go through a few different slides that will show you the points on these. Design and age, fire, and occupancy. So we go out, score the building. If your building's in green, that is amazing. That means, you know, you're maintaining it well. There's no identifiable issues. Now, when we say identifiable issues, we're not pulling your building apart to actually identify things, but because we have a specialist team, they do know what to look for, where failings could be, to identify, you know, those issues without having to pull your building apart. So if you get a green build, like a tick of green in every box, that's, you know, you guys are doing a good job, or the buildings are being well maintained. You step into that orange. We've kept this really simple with like the traffic light system. Your building has some issues that you need to get specialists out to look at further. If you're going into red, it is a concerning building. We went to one the other day where the fire system wasn't working. Like, that's alarm bells straight away. We consider red like an emergency make-safe style of building, you know, action whatever's going on immediately to keep everyone safe and healthy. So yeah, that's how we look at the building overall. But Chris, if we start to step through the slides, it'll give a bit more of a breakdown. And I don't know if we're issuing this after, because there is a lot of content in my slides.
What I would ask, Penny, if you want, you can either say next slide, or you can go bing.
Yeah,
either which
I don't know how I'll go at the bing, but okay, how about I have a go? As long as it doesn't sound like I'm doing that partway through. So what are we looking for? Like I said, water is the first big thing we're always looking for, because we want our buildings to be watertight and healthy. So, you know, Chris talked about flexi hoses, age pipes. That's a huge one. It's just maintaining those things, changing your flexi hoses regularly. And, you know, people aren't totally accustomed to that sort of thing. Like I said, I had a friend who, they did a whole lot of work on their house, and he was actually a plumber. He went away but hadn't checked his flexi hoses. And yeah, devastating. So drainage services, sewer services, Doors and windows. Now, when we talk doors and windows, they're actually that they're, you know, flash correctly, they're watertight, there's no leaks around them. You often don't see those issues till there's a directional, you know, rain event. That we constantly will go to properties after a big storm event, and it's a certain elevation, often the east elevation, where the weather's driven from, and it's actually been able to come through doors and windows. Waterproofing membranes, so, you know, our balconies, even internally though, in our bathrooms, anywhere, tanked roofs, things like that, ensuring that they're functioning correctly. Waterproofing membranes have evolved over time and are getting better and better and better.
That they are.
And have a serviceable life. So we just need to be aware of that. You know, if you're standing in the shower and it's feeling a little bouncy, it's probably started to fail.
Bouncy bad.
Planter boxes. So like I said before, just even the, you know, planter boxes being waterproof, tanked correctly, or even the placement of plants on a veranda can affect water. Swimming pools, basement levels are a huge one as far as pumping out and keeping them dry. Mechanical services, rising damp, hydraulic ground movement. So water's massive in our space. When we go out, things we like to look for, you know, is there enough stormwater for the building? Does the roof drain correctly? Is it watertight? What do you need to do? What specialist could you have look at it to do further reporting? So I'm going to go Bing, Chris. Not as exciting as you did it though. Natural. So what is the property exposed to? So cyclonic storm elements, WA, Kalbarri, we had roofs off over there. You know, we've had it with Debbie in Queensland years ago. So just being aware.
Nothing against Debbie, but we have had it with her.
We have had it with, that was my introduction to industry, to this side of it. Yeah, exposed to localized storm events, salt-laden air. So just deterioration of things, you know, if you're in coastal areas, which we live on the east coast of Australia, a lot of us. So being aware of the corrosion that is caused, particle pollutants in your more commercial areas, you'll get erosion, corrosion there, localized flooding. And I go even the localized flooding, we'll see flood maps, but there can be flooding in other areas we're seeing as well now too, with just the amount of weather we're getting. Bushfire, high wind forces, landslide, mine subsidence, snow loading, and large trees. So they're all the things, you know, when we might go out, we'll look, you know, there are large trees adjacent to this property. We make a note on it. That's, you know, they can cause such damage in storms. I've had a job that the tree fell at the back of it. To get that tree out from that property was like next level, the way it was actually leaning into it. So, you know, it's just pruning, maintaining, clearing, keeping things, you know, well maintained. Bing. Did I do that one better?
You did. That was quite spirited. Quite spirited.
So design details. I have a couple of builder architects in my team, so this is their favorite space. You know, they start to talk about structure and integrity and non-compliant and compliant items. So yeah, we're looking at you know, your structural integrity of your building. If you're not maintaining your building, you've got water leaks, things like that, it is going to degrade. Your building is going to, you know, over time have structural issues. If you get to that early, you're going to prevent that. So it's just understanding that issues that are, you know, non-compliant and not in line with relevant codes and standards. Now, when we talk about that, we're not looking for things that are historically non-compliant, but, you know, there are things, if you're going to do work on your buildings, there are going to be upgrades that are required in those areas. Insufficient design and detailing for the installation of building components. So again, you know, just a simple thing, a roof replacement, if you need to upgrade the hydraulic system on that, what is involved in that then structurally? Can that building take that additional structural requirement? So we're constantly also looking at how do we do these works within our existing parameters in these buildings. So that's a further piece, so I won't, babble on too much. Was the property constructed during a period when, identified materials were known to be contained hazardous? So we've got our asbestos, everyone knows that. If we don't touch it, generally not an issue. But we do need to identify these materials because they do add a lot to, removal and repair, different things like that. There's additional costs, additional testing, and, additional concerns in that space. Auxiliary services.
House is built of asbestos. Delightful stuff.
It's solid as, Chris, while it's doing its job. We just don't want to disturb it. So.
My 1957 shack.
Yeah, I have one very similar, and I go, I love it. If it's very robust material, but once we've disturbed it, there's a lot.
They'll be showing that on the news. CO2, asbestos.
There's a lot of costs involved and a lot of work involved. Once you do head down work in those areas, and just controlling it correctly to keep people safe. That's probably, all I need to talk about on that strong slide. So I'll bing again, Chris. Fire. What are we looking for with fire? The first thing we're looking for is that the stratas are looking after their own fire and maintaining fire in that space, getting the relevant, checks and sign-offs when it comes to fire. If we identify issues I've got a whole lot of things listed there, active fire controls, fire extinguishers, fire hydrants, fire blankets, sprinkler systems, alarms, fire dampeners. In buildings, fires, in buildings class, I get excited about things.
You do, I know.
In the class of building we're working in, 2 to 9, there's a lot of different requirements. The big thing is to make sure you have a working fire system that is being maintained correctly when it comes to fire. So I won't ramble on there, but we have been to properties where their fire system isn't working. That building gets a red straight away, and it's like, it's emergency, get someone out there, sort it out. So like I said, in this condition reporting, it is identification to then recommend specialists to move on to next steps. So I'm glad. So Chris, last time, if you remember, he tested me in this space, and I said, please don't do that again, because I'll probably forget again, which is really bad.
Never throw you under the bus, Pen.
Yeah, I'm glad you didn't. So what items are priority? Watertight and structure. Sounds simple, not as simple as it sounds, but it is simple to identify and start a process. So as long as you are pointed in the right direction, and you then understand a bit of a program of works to maintain the building, it is simple. How do I manage this? Identification. So like I keep banging on, this is what we do. Specialist engagement. So we recommend the specialist. So if it's a hydraulic issue, it's a hydraulic engineer, structural engineer for structural issues, fire engineers for fire issues. So we'll identify an actual issue and then, call out the specialist to go to in that area. From there, that specialist or the specialist working along with, a builder or a trade can develop a scope of works. I always go methodology and program are massive in managing works. It does seem to be a little bit of a missed area, I guess, in building these days. People just do the bare minimum, don't think about the rest. So
it can be a massive difference in cost. Like the money spent in that method and programming is just is a huge element. Yeah.
Chris has seen us we've got examples where you can have $1 million job that can come down to $500,000 just with correct methodology and programming. I'm not saying that you can save those monies all the time, but
I think you just did, Penny. I think you just said that.
I have done it. But yeah, it is, even just keeping your program of work short cuts out all your preliminary costs or cuts down on all those costs. And that's where a lot of the cost savings are, that method and program. What specialists do I engage? They're recommended. So it's doing that identification to get that recommendation to move things forward in the space. Is that my last slide, Chris?
That's your last slide, Penny.
Is that me at the end of my last slide? Is that?
No. This is in the spirit of prevention. Actually, we'll do a quick. Does everyone remember what this scene is from? It's a beautiful moment in a particular quite comedic film. Typey, people. Typey.
Yeah,
no?
I'm waiting for the answer.
Austin Powers, yes.
Okay.
David Webster for the win. Well done. So we're talking about this, and I threw this one in here to talk about, like, when's the best time to plant a tree? 20 years ago or now? As in, when do you want the benefit of that shade? And so investing in your maintenance basically is designing the money that you want to spend in order to keep the money that you don't want to spend in the future. It's a simple premise, and I know that some stratas do it beautifully, and well, many stratas do it beautifully. I think there'd be a lot more harmony in the strata space. The better we become at this, the more cost-effective many aspects of the insurance provision and general maintenance aspect and response demands from the strata space will be less costly, the more proactively that we engage specialists to drive us. I think I said specialists. Engage specialists.
Normally me getting my words wrong, Chris.
That's all right.
So it's, your turn.
Okay. I'm just going to skip through these, but more as a heads up to what's to come, because we've got a further webinar coming that will be hosted by Andrew Bond, who heads up our To Inspect business, where we use drones and internal LiDAR devices. And the quick nature of it basically is we look over roofs to identify issues and aid in the damage identification and scoping and all the like, that turns into pictures and automated dimensions and volumes and all that kind of things that can be applied in both the claim space as well as the capital works space, as in we're doing this work both within claims as well as via builders out in the strata space for large works and issues of maintenance. These are the kind of images that come up. There's some machine learning to identify issues, but all this is required to be reviewed by qualified people to deliver this. This is an internal or a floor-based LiDAR camera that both takes 360 images and bounces lasers around a room to measure them out, to give you floor plans and to build what is generally being referred to as digital twins of buildings. So we're doing this kind of work, as I said, all best in the hands of qualified specialists. And I know that as we are, we've got a bit more time left in the hour. There's been many questions that have been raised throughout. So I'm hoping that there's an efficient way to draw particular ones to our attention, as aided by Daniel, Megan, and Zoe. Is there particular ones that have been highlighted that you'd like to throw up? Okay, question for Penny. Does CHU have a comprehensive checklist that can be sent to our strata clients to do self-checks?
So we don't have one currently. I guess our report does have. Yeah, I was going to say our report that we actually generate has a checklist. It is something we could look at, Chris.
It's a good point. I do know that like CHU are very active in like future projects. And I know that there is a future project that it's not just a one-off thing, it's always rolling and looking to either disruption aspects in relation to the business that we do, as well as emerging opportunities. And there's a lot of activity in that space for developing tools and services in that topic. So I think that's a watch this space.
Yeah, I do too. It's a great question.
For myself, Andrew O'Brien has asked, what is CHU's prediction for increases in building costs and strata insurance premium increases for the next 12 months, i.e. What should OCs be budgeting for at their AGM, assuming they index their building sum insured by the predicted increase? My beautiful answer to it is that I am a claims specialist, but I do know, and I'd encourage those who are able to attend the symposiums that CHU are hosting as we do each year, the first of which kicks off in Melbourne next week. And there is a lot of detail in those sessions speaking to premium. So anything that I would say around that would be minuscule in relation to the excellent information that will be delivered during those symposiums. But what we can do is anything that I'm not a specialist in to answer, or Penny is not a specialist in this particular session, we can pass on to the hive mind of CHU and respond to you if you're unable to attend those symposiums. So thank you, Andrew. A question for myself from Darren Ryan. How can a strata manager more effectively change the attitude from some owners that the answer to everything that will cost money at their property is not an insurance claim, including in a recent experience that an owner self-lodged a catastrophe claim to try and pay for the replacement of a roof that had reached the end of its life after 40 years? That's a great question. Says there are the three most important ones I could pick. Okay, sorry, that's from Daniel. Thank you. I make a terrible news presenter.
Good work, Dan. Good work.
Full stop, question mark. So Daniel, that's an excellent question. I'll throw back to, and I've used, I actually think I said this in our last year's presentation. The simplest answer, it was given to me by a strata manager who manages a business up in Port Macquarie, whose name is Andrew, that he says to that question from his lot owners is, what is claimable? And his response was, well, did it die of natural causes or did something kill it? And so the nature of insurance, as per like the parts of this presentation, is that insurance is there, and obviously there's many aspects of wording that make up this very simple answer. It's there to respond to accident, as in sudden and unexpected. And so things like every piece of a building material will have an expected lifespan and be subject to wear and tear and deterioration and corrosion, and or be proven in certain events to be inadequate, like from design.
Maintenance.
Yeah, as in it, like despite all best predictions, that box gutter with the frequency of rain events that come, or that flat roof design, and the particular type of of profile of that roof doesn't work, and then escalates the amount of wear and tear and deterioration, or points of ponding on that roof, which then escalates in corrosion. So all these issues, it's that slide again of the steamroller, 40 feet away. No, it's like it's coming. It's planned and preventable, and so that would be my answer to that, and hopefully that little piece can be taken out. Feel free. I'll be at all the symposiums as well, Daryl, so you can accost me in person and ask me if I've not answered your question. We have here, do you offer a building inspection report for new buildings being handed over to Owners Corporation from a developer, please? I think that is also a valid question. And what we are doing, Penny and I in our Choose Services business, is working towards a grand master plan. And as in that we have resources that are able to respond to an amount of work. And so as we scale, our services will grow. And that is an absolutely necessary aspect. But I'd also there's probably a slide that Andrew Bond in the CHU Inspect presentation will do. And you might have seen, if anyone's on LinkedIn, I've put a short little video out on dilapidation reporting using the LiDAR camera, as in instead of and we did actually you can go to the CHU website, go to Choose Services, and see a 13-story building with 2 levels of basement car park, that every available space, basically we've built a digital twin, and that was prior to the handover by the developer to the strata. And so for that, if anyone basically comes to that developer, or basically as a strata wants to talk about the condition of the building at that particular day, there's a beautiful model that looks at every, like, up, down, sideways, left, like every area in that building basically has been captured. And so we've got products that can do that, and so we will be ever expanding in it. 10 minutes remaining, or less. Question for Penny. Does CHU have a panel of specialists that can help with roof inspection reports, building condition reporting, etc.? Some clients of ours have trouble knowing where to go and who to use to help, ?
So the condition reporting, yes, does incorporate those things. We've stepped into the external market just slowly. So yes, we do have reports. They are the identification, though, that then directs you to the specialist required. So yeah, that's the stage we're at so far.
There is, and whilst CHU does have a panel of builders that work in the claim space, and many of those, and some of them, or most of which basically are respected in the strata space, not just within the claim, their claim activities, but also in how they support strata in the maintenance space as well. And so timing wise, we'll have to finish that as the final question. It has been our pleasure to present to you. Hopefully you found it insightful, and I very much look forward to meeting many of you in our trip around Australia with Symposium. We are here in Choose Services. You can access us as a section in the CHU website under Choose Services, with drop-downs for assess, consult, and inspect. Lots of very interesting details. Thank you very much for your time. Your CPD points or point will be coming, and have a wonderful week. Thank you.
Thank you all.